This program contains adult content.
Is there a God?
Big atheist.
Really?
What, am I an idiot? Come on.
That yes, it would be nice if you could throw your sins and your responsibilities on someone else. But it's not true.
It looks like far-left lunacy.
I don't believe that it's true that religion is moral or ethical.
You don't need to follow anybody!
It's not human intelligence!
If someone doesn't value logical consistency, what logical argument are you going to give them that will demonstrate that they should?
Welcome to the Godless Rebelution. Today is Friday, January 12th. This is episode 189. I am Dan Ellis, your bearded, fat, ginger host guy.
And I'm Ryan Doofy. I'm just kidding, I'm not.
Ryan Doofy, no. Yeah, Matt's back in the studio. Yay!
Thanks for thinking of me to fill in for Ryan.
You're welcome. I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah.
Glad you were available. So,
yeah, it's always fun to do a show once in a while.
So Matt's back in studio tonight. Ryan is absent. He's out recording some video stuff. And so we have Grant in the studio again with us for, is this the fourth week in a row?
Once again, yeah, third or fourth.
Wow.
I don't know.
Super,
I mean,
thanks.
when do I get my picture added to the trio?
Well, then it would be a quad.
It would be a quad.
Sure. Thank you very much for coming in, though, man.
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate it a whole lot.
Happy to.
Like having you here to chat with us about stuff tonight. We're going to be talking about GMOs.
Because you didn't get enough of that last week.
GMOs. Yeah. I like talking about GMOs. I've prepared quite a bit of stuff that we can talk about. We were going to have a guest on this evening, but that fell through when the guest and one of their children got very ill today. So we've rescheduled that guest for a future episode that will still be lots of fun. And this one will be awesome because we're going to be talking about GMOs. It's something that I'm very passionate about and very excited about, and I like to talk about a whole lot. So we'll be doing that. But in the meantime, what have you been doing for the last few weeks, Mr. Mitchell?
Oh, geez. A lot of things.
A lot of things. Yeah?
Yeah, well, my wife and I had a special needs baby and closed on a house that needed renovations within the same week or so.
Oi.
So I've been doing that. Don't ever fucking tile unless you do that for a job. Don't just have somebody do it.
I learned that lesson.
I saw pictures of the tile you're putting down. It looks really nice.
Thanks, man.
It looks really, really good. It looks difficult because you didn't just go with square tiles set in, straight rows. You decided to use elongated tiles, put in a specific design pattern. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the herringbone pattern. So,
a lot more angles, a lot more cuts. Yeah.
I was not a beginner's tiling thing.
Cutting and laying tile all day Christmas, which I say because people go, oh, but it's nice for me because then no people. I was just in an empty house doing tile. The tile part sucks, but.
Yeah. It's a lot of fucking work, but it looks really good. You're doing a bang up job, man.
Oh, thanks, man.
You look so nice. So is the new place close to where you were living before?
It is right across the park.
Oh, yeah?
So, yeah, it's really close.
Right. And you purchased?
Yeah.
Woohoo!
Yep.
Home ownership.
Yeah.
Excitings.
Yay.
Yay!
I love home ownership.
Yeah.
I love having to repair shit all the time.
What have you been doing, Mr. Larimer?
It's been a fairly mellow week. Just kind of a lot of work. Wrapped up registration on re-registering my car at the DMV.
Your car or your daughter's car?
Well, my daughter's car. God forbid she do it. No, so there's a whole story behind that.
But so was this for the Jeep or for the?
No, it's for the Tahoe.
Oh, okay.
And we end up swapping cars.
Yeah.
So, and after we swapped, I found out that the registration was 3 months overdue. I never, it's registered in my name, but I never got the reminder, and the car isn't here, and she never got any kind of ticket or got pulled over or anything for it. So we didn't know until I got a parking ticket for it. So, and since I had the car here, then yeah, obviously I need to take care of it. So, safety and emissions and all that bullshit, and wrap that up this weekend. I don't remember if I brought this up before. I apologize if I did. The DMV, I mean, it fucking rocks these days.
Oh, yeah.
The DMV has always been kind of the butt of jokes about, government inefficiency and all that. I remember, I'm old enough, I remember what it used to be like.
Now it's the VA.
It's like, now it's a VA. But I mean, the DMV is still kind of chastised, but I mean, it's fucking, I walked in there to wrap up the registration after getting safety done. I walked in there, the guy who hands out the tickets. Mm. My number was called before he put the ticket in my hand.
Oh, wow.
I went in at 4 p.m, which is a no-no. You don't go in at 1 hour before closing, because they've like piled up everyone, waiting to get through, and you're going to be there, forever. Yeah. You get there first thing in the morning and beat the rush. No, I walked in at 4 p.m. for some stupid reason. The place was dead. My number was called before he puts the ticket in my hand. I go sit down in front of the lady. She scans a couple of things, hits a couple of buttons on her keyboard. I'm out in like 3 minutes. In and out of the DMV in 3 minutes with my sticker and all that. I mean, they've got it down. I don't know why it's the butt of jokes anymore. It shouldn't be.
Yeah.
At least here in Utah. I mean, I don't know about other parts of the country, but.
Yeah, well, I know Noah made a few posts a while ago, No Illusions from Scathing Atheist, talking about going to the DMV to, I think, just update his license because it was expiring. And he had a lot of problems there because they didn't take credit cards or debit cards.
Oh,
you had to pay by check, I believe.
Oh, okay.
And, which is fucking stupid.
Well, maybe other states haven't figured it out yet. But.
Yeah. But Utah's is pretty awesome. You're absolutely right. I have had very pleasant experiences going to the DMV here in Utah.
I mean, for years now. Yeah. I mean, for years. I mean, I don't think I've spent more than 15, 20 minutes tops at the DMV at any time I've gone.
Well, I think a factor not to be overlooked is the relatively low population as a whole. It's got a population center, but
that's true. But I mean,
compared to Baltimore
then,
or New York or whatever, it's nothing.
That is true, but I mean, even with low population, the DMV here in Utah when I was younger was awful. It was an all day event. They've just automated it so much. I mean, so much is done online now.
Yeah,
they have a drive-through for people to use, and so fewer people actually need to go. And when you do go, it's all just scanned barcodes,
right?
And credit cards and shit like that, and they just knock it out.
Yeah, it's a lot more efficient these days.
Everything all the way down to the inspection and emissions is automated now, where when you go get your inspection, your safety somewhere, it's already in the DMV computer before you even get there. Because it's all interconnected now.
Right.
So the government knows everything about you. So, that must make you feel really good.
It makes me feel special.
Yeah.
I didn't do a whole lot over the last week. We had an Atheists of Utah board meeting that went very well. We've got some exciting things coming up here in the near future that we'll be announcing shortly. And last night we had our monthly Godless Cocktails event at Piper Down, which was a lot of fun. A lot of new people there that will be coming out to future events. We'll be volunteering at Planned Parenthood next week, so that should be a lot of fun. Other than that, I haven't been doing a whole lot except just work. Work has been very busy because we are in that time of the year.
Well, it's the IRS, yeah.
My employer gets very busy this time of year, so that's been exciting. But I want to talk more about GMOs. We'll do that in just a minute.
Hey everybody, it's X from the Utah Outcasts podcast and YouTube channel, and you're listening to the Godless Rebelution.
There's people are done with these, right?
Yeah. Unless you want some whiskey.
No, I don't drink. Never have.
I'm not.
You don't drink?
No, not really.
Teetotaler or just don't drink often?
I was raised not to really partake too much.
Me too.
Really?
My parents never did.
Protestant?
Yeah. I mean, when I was a child, yes.
Rejoining the Godless Rebelution podcast now.
You guys ready to talk about GMOs?
Yep.
I'm excited.
Yep.
So I researched a whole bunch, and the way I went about doing this is just thinking to myself all of the different arguments that I've heard that are against GMOs or, they're anti-GMO, all of the things that I've conversed with various people online about and their reluctance to fully embrace genetic engineering and GMO technology that I think is incredibly beneficial and helpful and will be the answer to a lot of the world's food needs going forward. So I just sat down and created this list of different arguments and then went in and backfilled information on them as I thought about it and everything. And then I wrote this opening piece to kind of give us a jumping off point before we get into the nuts and bolts of the whole discussion. So humans have been modifying crops for millennia. We've been manipulating the genes of crops through selective breeding of plants with desirable traits. Just look at the varieties of grapes, tomatoes, apples. I can't think of any of our food crops that we haven't mucked with genetically, right? Can you guys think of anything that you eat that has not been modified through human intervention, whether it's through selective breeding or genetic engineering or any other means?
Certainly not on a large scale. I mean, there may be a few things you come across in the wild that, although even then, but probably you could find some stuff that's less modified, especially things that are not as desirable as something like a banana, perhaps. Yeah,
some wild cultivars that you just find out that have been growing by themselves for a while, yeah. Pure
maple syrup.
Has that not?
Why? I don't know. Do we genetically modify maple trees to produce more syrup?
I don't know, but I would be surprised
if a long endeavor there.
Yeah.
Takes a long time for the maple trees to grow. I don't know.
But you don't think, well,
I'm guessing Dan's right. I'm guessing, over time that pretty much everything we've touched has been through some kind of selective breeding or something.
Well, yeah, we've selectively bred or crossbred or created hybrids of just about everything so that it gives us a larger yield, has more nutrition, provides better taste, is easier to eat, it has a thinner skin or less seeds. Or
less resistant to disease.
Or is more resistant to disease.
Or more resistant to disease and bugs.
I would say maple and probably honey and stuff are probably on the very low end of being modified.
Yeah, the raw stuff that the stuff that occurs in nature that we haven't really had to modify at all, that has been beneficial and good since its initial discovery.
Honey
kind of
is perfect the way it is.
I agree.
But corn, wheat, soy, apples, bananas, potatoes, carrots, lettuce, nearly everything you and I eat on a day-to-day basis has been modified from its wild cultivars. But most of those advances came from decades and even centuries of painstaking research and breeding with a lot of time wasted through inefficiency. The idea behind GMOs or genetically engineered products isn't really all that radical a notion. It simply reduces the inefficiencies by allowing biologists and farmers to more accurately alter the genes in plants to make them more hardy, more resistant to stresses from climate change, insects, invasive plant species, drought, all of these things that can affect our growing of crops and the feeding of the world's population, and all of which we've been battling since we first started cultivating crops ourselves instead of just foraging for wild crops.
Whatever's there, yeah. I mean, even down to plants accepting more or less direct sunlight.
Right.
I mean, they can modify that. They can and have modified that too. Do you want to just go get through all of this, or can I interject?
No, please interject.
Okay,
yes.
because I brought some things here too, but
okay,
but this dovetails into right exactly what you're saying, which is a part of the, which I can tell is probably already coming up, but it's the qualification that there's a big difference between laboratory genetic modification and natural modification.
Sure,
which is
what you define as natural modification.
Which is the objection.
Well, that was one of the points I was going to bring up. That's one of the questions I was going to have.
Oh, okay.
Is just that question right there, because there is a distinction.
But there is, but so there's a bit of a naturalistic fallacy in there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and it depends on what you mean by natural.
Well,
natural. Did you say natural selection? I can't remember.
Laboratory genetic modification and natural modification. But even natural modification in this sense isn't entirely natural because we're interfering. The only difference between...
Well, yeah, so what do you mean by natural modification first?
Well, so this is an article that I pulled from Cosmopolitan.
Okay.
Which everyone should go read the full article. I have bits and pieces of it here, but it's from SciBabe.
I bet.
Yeah,
Nice.
and it's awesome. But I think what's being talked about is humans interfering or crossbreeding, pollinating, grafting in, whatever, to get more desirable results. But if that's considered natural, then I don't know why modifying genes isn't also considered natural.
Yeah, true.
I mean, that's no more natural than what we're doing now.
Yeah, I think the problem is that people think about it as far as their own capabilities. You know, what can I do as a person myself without any specialized training in genetics to crossbreed a hybrid plant? What can I do as a regular person versus those evil scientists who are, you know, just part of the big ag machine who wants to take over the world and control our food supply?
Right, twirling their mustaches.
Right.
So, and I'm not going that far as you know, the evil, you know,
Satan
and all that. But I mean, isn't there a difference? I mean, when you crossbreed two things, in a air quote natural sense, nature decides whether those two things are going to work or not. Whereas in the lab, you can kind of force it to happen. I mean, you can try and crossbreed a turkey with a spider in order to get a turkey with 8 turkey legs, but it's not going to work in nature.
That's not going to work in the lab either.
Well, no, I mean, it's...
I mean, you can rape a double helix to a certain extent, but nature still does have to give some consent.
There are things you can do. Aren't there things you can do at a genetic level that you can't, that won't necessarily happen at a natural level? Is my question. And
so say that again.
Are there things that you could do in a lab that wouldn't necessarily happen at a natural level?
Yes.
Well, sure. Yeah.
So,
but the same is true of anything you can do in a lab, really, right?
Right. And I just wonder if that's where some people draw that line sometimes between natural and lab.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. Like, what can I just do as a regular Joe Schmo do to fuck with plants to get them to do something different than what they would do if I just threw some seeds in the ground and watered it or whatever, versus what those wacko scientists are doing in their labs.
Right. I'm not saying what the scientists are doing in the labs are bad. But there does
that seems to be the distinction that a lot of people draw. There does seem to be a distinction
between the two, and I'm not sure it's altogether fair to just kind of lump them together as they're the same thing, because I'm not sure they are, at least in a lot of people's minds.
Well, right, yeah.
Well, certainly that. It's certainly different in people's minds. But I think a lot of the conclusions that they're drawing based on the differences that they think are there are false. I mean, you know, like if you're taking a measurement and you're off by a tiny little bit, it doesn't matter if the distance you're covering is short.
Right.
But if you're off by a millimeter here and you have to go 2 miles, at the end, you're going to be off by a ton.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of what's happening, is that even if they're sort of off at the very beginning of what's going on in GMO versus like what's happening in the lab or quote naturally, then everything that they're deriving from that being off a little bit way out at the end is off by a ton, and I think that's, you get the idea of turkey legs on spiders and stuff.
Well, and that's where the inefficiencies are born, right? Is in not having a more precise way of doing it initially, and so every descendant from there becomes a missed opportunity or a wasted time and effort put into creating what you wanted to create from the outset.
Well, and that's a totally fair argument that in the lab you're able to speed up a process that could have been done naturally anyway. That you could get to this end result naturally, but it would take a whole lot longer to crossbreed and do that.
Well, yeah,
generations and generations to do it. Where in the lab you can do it in one quick step.
Well, and real quick, I want to revisit the terms a little bit here, because when you say naturally, it's not occurring without any type of intervention. It's still artificially selected. It's still artificially hybridized and bred together to create what you want. It's still a human intervention, so it's not a completely natural process.
It's not
even for the people who say it's a more natural thing.
When I say naturally, what I'm referring to is that nature ends up deciding whether or not it's going to work.
Still not sure what you mean by that. That still happens with.
If a dog fucks a cat, nature decides whether conception occurs.
Well, I think you're assigning agency to nature, which is a little weird.
Okay, no,
but the point's still valid.
Sure.
I mean, there are constraints in nature that disallow cat dogs.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I don't mean to imply agency. I don't mean to imply any kind of,
it's one of those things that along the lines of, if you start here and you have this end goal in mind, but if you start here and your premises or your wording or whatever isn't more precise, then by the time you get to the end, then it amplifies the issues and problems within there. So I just want to make sure that we have our terms, that we're all on the same page for our terms.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, there are constraints. I just think the way that it's viewed in someone's mind as so sinister, I think it's more like making an Oreo, a double stuffed Oreo, rather than making a spider with turkey legs.
Right.
Which is a little weird and freaky and kind of bizarre.
This isn't like Island of Dr. Moreau.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just going to be my example because it fits perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Do you mind if I read this real quick from
Not at all.
Yvette, and then we can probably jump back? Unless this should clarify. I think it fits pretty well.
Okay.
You've heard some of the rumors that with genetic modification, we've unnaturally reinvented the Pop-Tart to sling webs and regrow limbs. This is a lot like saying the nice folks from Amazon use the Kindle in a radical new way to sell a book, not so that it's more compact, but so it drunk dials your ex. This is fear-mongering about a new technology, and it's preying on your lack of knowledge. Traditional breeding methods, including hybridization or selective breeding, are what we think of as, quote, natural breeding. These are done for a variety of reasons, from making new varietals of the crop to making it more resistant to the elements. But make no mistake, this drastically alters the DNA of the seeds. For comparison, President Barack Obama's hypoallergenic Portuguese water dog, Bo, is somewhat of a hybrid. A Chihuahua is a selectively bred gray wolf. In fact, all dogs are descendants from the same genetic ancestor, the gray wolf. My 11-pound Chihuahua Terrier mix could breed with a gray wolf, carefully. But don't fall into the trap of thinking that natural modification is always better or healthier. Bulldogs were selectively bred, and they generally give birth via C-section, have breathing problems, and only live for about 6 years.
Right.
So
you introduced these traits that you weren't necessarily.
Yeah, I mean,
setting out as
exactly.
As a goal.
So like, if we go back to the Oreo example, if you don't go in and manipulate the genes and you do it by, just farm, I know you don't farm Oreos, but if you do it by the quote unquote natural, breeding, right?
Crossbreeding Oreos until
yeah, right. And your
larger stuffing.
Yeah. And your desire is to get double stuffed. Well, you're going to be able to spot the ones that are occurring naturally with more stuff.
Yeah.
And you're going to want to breed those with other things that have more stuff, right? But maybe one of the qualities,
while maintaining the cookie to stuff ratio.
Right, but maybe one of the qualities of the Oreos with greater stuff is also that they have harder, denser cookies to hold it in there. And so when you breed those two together, you do get more stuff, but you also get a cookie that's like hard and cuts the roof of your mouth and is not desirable. But you have no way of altering that. You take it or leave it. You either get the stuff and the hard cookie, or you don't get either. And you can, and that's the problem, is that there's no way to do one without the other in a lot of these cases. And that's like the cases with pugs and bulldogs, and you get this fucked up, respiratory problem. So if you just want the double stuff, you just go in and you say, turn on the double stuff, turn off the hard cookie, boom.
Yeah.
I'm picturing
it's no different.
I'm picturing this awesome video of like a bunch of lab scientists in lab coats standing over with their checklists over a table with like 2 Oreo cookies, just waiting for them to like merge.
And it's only 2 because they can't get funding for more.
Do you have more in that you wanted to?
I do. I'll just I'll jump in if I have one that corresponds, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's how it works. Scientists extract a bit of DNA from an organism, modify or make copies of it, and incorporate it into the genome of the same species or a second one. For example, you and I, we all have a ton more genes in common with a banana than you would realize, right? You're basically more than 50% banana if you want to look at it that way, or anything around you, you share a shit ton of the same genes because God got lazy.
I think you're related to an orange.
Yes, more closely related to an orange than you, for sure.
Is that why my dick curves the way it does? I mean,
is that you're part banana?
And it's green with spots?
That's banana.
It does have a certain appeal, though.
So the way that they get it into the genome of the same species or a second one is by either using bacteria or delivering the new genetic material, is by using bacteria to deliver the new genetic material, or by shooting tiny DNA-coated metal pellets into a plant cell with a gene gun. They basically shoot the differences into the plant and
that
hope that
sounds scary, Dan.
Yeah, it's a gene gun.
Bacteria.
Pew pew. They're shooting things into. While scientists can't control exactly where the foreign DNA will land, they can repeat the experiment until they get a genome with the right information in the right place. The use of newer technologies like CRISPR are especially exciting breakthroughs in the field because it allows for much greater precision. So, in the past, the way that a lot of breeding has taken place is by grafting. We've all done that experiment in high school where you graft little bits of one plant onto another, and then you get things like there's like the grape flavored peaches. There's like what are the fucking there's hybrids of fruits that are like
nectarines.
Kind of, but they're more specialized, and you can have a tree that will grow both plums and oranges, kind of thing. That's weird and
well, that's just sacrilegious.
Well,
that's like condiments on your wiener. I mean.
No, hot dogs, plain in a bun.
In a bun,
no condiments.
No condiments.
With GMOs, this is a quote. With GMOs, we know the genetic information we're using, we know where it goes to the genome, and we can see if it is near an allergen or a toxin, or if it's going to turn another gene off. That's from Peggy Lameau, a plant biologist at the University of California, Berkeley.
Fake school.
That is not true when you cross widely different varieties in traditional breeding. So you can't, like you said earlier, you can't cross a dog and a cat and get a cat dog.
Well, I think Grant said that, to be fair, but...
Oh, was it?
Okay. I threw out
but
the
yeah.
dogs fucking cats, it's...
So when speaking about today's usage of terms like GMO, there are two techniques which dominate the market. The first enables crops to express a protein from the bacterium Bacillus thuringius, or BT, and that's toxic to certain insects. So they've created certain plant varieties that express BT through the plant itself, so that the plant itself helps keep those predatory insects away from the crop and protect it that way, rather than spraying pesticide onto the plant itself.
Which you would think that lefties would be for.
You would think so, because then you're not spraying those dangerous chemicals that are just going to kill things. But then they flip it on its head and say, well, now that dangerous chemical is right in my food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's inside it. You can't wash it off anymore.
Yeah.
But that's not the same thing.
Right. It's not at all, because certain chemicals affect certain organisms in certain ways.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the same type of response to all chemicals that insects do or that other mammals do. Everybody is different. Humans being different from insects, we don't have the same response to this particular enzyme.
Right. We can't eat eucalyptus, for example.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah, but
really bad.
Koalas exist only on that.
That was a rough night. Jesus.
Oh,
it was a long weekend in Australia. I swear to God.
BT is also the active ingredient in pesticides used by organic farmers. So whether you want to say that the GMO crops or the genetically engineered crops are worse than the quote unquote organic crops, really it's a difference of is the pesticide or insecticide being bred into the crop itself, or am I spraying it on there?
Mm-hmm.
Which one would you prefer?
And just for measure, the amount of toxicity of glyphosate, how do you say it? Which way do you say it?
I say glyphosate.
Glyphosate, okay. Which is the active ingredient in the pesticide Roundup, which is also what they're using, right?
Yeah, Roundup is basically the brand name of glyphosate.
Right. Is less toxic than table salt to humans.
For the LD50, yeah. Like the amount of table salt that you would consume versus the amount of Roundup or glyphosate, you would need more glyphosate than table salt to kill you.
Yeah. Even the pink Himalayan nonsense.
You would need more caffeine than glyphosate. You would need more glyphosate than caffeine to kill you.
Mm.
The LD50 for glyphosate is much lower than a lot of the chemicals that we use every single day.
Well, and that kind of comes back to, and what you said before and what you said just now, comes down to one of my biggest questions. And I'm not saying it's not like this. I'm uninformed, so you're educating me here. Says who? I mean,
oh, you're gonna go Cohen on us, huh?
So I'm not saying it hasn't been independently tested, and if it has, that's great. But if the people who are saying this are the companies that are producing it, then that bears a lot less weight for me than if it's like independent researchers from like the University of California, or independent research organizations that aren't tied to the profits of this product.
Yeah, that it's not in their best interest that the results go one way or the other.
So, I mean, you had mentioned earlier, but the evil corporations. I'm not a big conspiracy theorist, but I also don't trust corporations.
Right.
I mean, they've proven themselves
over and over and over
to not
again,
be trustworthy. So my big question is how much independent testing has there been on glyphosate, and these things.
And we will get to that.
That would be that more than anything. I am not anti-GMO, but that's the question in the back of my mind. That
yeah, and it's a valid
resides.
concern. I mean, we've seen it for everything from alcohol studies, tobacco studies.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch of shit that we know now is really harmful, but in the past,
safety.
We've had corporations trotting out various scientists who said, "Oh no, you should absolutely enjoy those cigarettes.
The oil
because
industry.
It helps with digestion and relaxes your nerves."
Yeah. So.
Yeah, we've seen that. We've seen that throughout history. I
figured we'd probably get to that eventually, but it was relevant to.
Yeah, absolutely.
This point. Yeah.
The second major technology. When talking about GMOs or genetic engineering, allows crops to tolerate the herbicide glyphosate so that farmers can spray entire fields much more liberally than they have in the past, and yet still only kill weeds. They're not going to kill their crops. Glyphosate use has skyrocketed in the U.S. since these GMOs were introduced in 1996. But glyphosate is among the mildest herbicides available, with a toxicity 25 times less than that of caffeine. So you would need, so in other words, you would need to consume 25 times more glyphosate than caffeine if you were looking to kill yourself. Its use has decreased reliance on more toxic alternatives such as atrazine, which has an LD50 in rats of 3,090 milligrams per kilogram, compared to the LD50 of glyphosate or Roundup, which is roughly 5,600 milligrams per kilogram. So the LD50...
I'm reading ahead. I was about to ask that. What is LD50? And now I'm reading ahead, and it looks like...
Yeah, let me... I think I have a definition of LD50
because you're getting all scientific now, Dan.
Oh, man, I know I put the definition of LD50 in here somewhere.
The next paragraph sounded like it was talking about what... As an explanation... Oh, no.
Yeah, down right there. So everybody knows.
So everyone knows.
Oh, yeah, there.
LD50 is.
Look at me. I'm smart.
Like I
thought of it ahead of time. So just so everybody knows what LD50 is, it's the amount of an ingested substance that kills 50% of a test sample and is expressed in milligrams per kilogram, or milligrams of substance per kilogram of body weight. So a person who weighs 150 pounds, or roughly 68 kilograms, would need to ingest around 210,000 milligrams, or 7.4 ounces of atrazine, or nearly double that amount of glyphosate, around 380,000 milligrams, or 13.4 ounces, in order to kill 50% of a test sample.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the LD50 of common household bleach, for example, in rats, which is the subject used for the atrazine and glyphosate examples that we just talked about. So the LD50 of common household bleach is 4,090 milligrams per kilogram, which is more than 1,500 milligrams less than glyphosate. So you would need 1,500 milligrams less of common household bleach than glyphosate in order to kill yourself. And we use bleach all the time. We clean with it. We wash our clothes with it. We disinfect things around the house with it.
We swim in it.
Yeah. It's put into our water that we drink all the time through the municipal water systems. It's used to help keep our water clean and sanitary. And nobody ever questions that. Well, I wouldn't say nobody, because there's this raw water movement going on.
Fluoride.
There are a lot of conspiracy theories around it, but we know that here in the United States, where our water, unless you happen to live in Michigan, is really pretty safe. It's, I shit in water cleaner than most people drink in the rest of the world.
Yeah. You bastard.
Such a wonderful visual to leave us with.
Well, it's still, we talked about it last week a little bit, that it fucking amazes me.
It is incredible.
That I have water just readily at my fingertips to do anything I want with inside my house. Yeah. And even the water that I take a shit in
is cleaner than most people in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just amazing. Like people from third world countries would come over here and see me shitting in a bowl of water, and they'd be like, "What the hell, man?"
Yeah, isn't that weird?
Hi, I'm Lucian Greaves, spokesperson and co-founder of the Satanic Temple. Check out my website, grayfaction.org, if you want to be disgusted and alarmed. You're listening to Godless Rebelution.
Well, my name is Benjamin.
I know you're a wonderful magician.
Oh, thank you.
I love magic.
Oh, thanks.
I really do.
Well, and I was hoping you'd say your name.
Sorry, it's Pete.
Pete. Hello, Pete.
Peter.
Nice to meet you.
But you're a big atheist now, right? I mean,
Yeah, I have been for a long time. I guess my whole adult life.
I stuck with it, I guess.
Oh, did you?
Jesus is still my co-pilot. He's great. He doesn't drink either.
Oh, really?
Very smooth flight.
I thought there was the wine thing, and then the wine.
You know, there's one miracle. The rest of the time he was pretty dry.
Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
Because I didn't have as much time as I wanted to go through all this, I mean, I put a bunch of stuff in here, but it's not in any necessarily coherent line of thought. There's like I said, I just wrote down a bunch of the headlines and talking points that I've heard people discuss or that I've discussed with other people, and then I went back through and backfilled them, but it was just as I thought about it and as I went through the list. So there are a bunch of things that I don't necessarily have a whole lot of things for, but we can talk about if you want. One of them is monoculture. A lot of people get frustrated or concerned about large manufacturing or large farming companies creating and using monocultures where they'll take over an entire plot of land and put in only corn.
One thing, yeah, like huge swaths of land with one thing. Well, newsflash, they were fucking doing that before.
Right. Yeah, that is not necessarily a symptom or a problem only with GMO technology.
No, that's not related to GMO at all.
Right, that's just farming practices.
Yep.
Seed trademarks. A lot of people complain that Monsanto trademarks their seed.
Mm-hmm.
Companies do that with everything that they produce. Nobody complains that Apple trademarks all of the bits and pieces within their iPhone. Nobody complains that Nike trademarks their branded swoosh or the style of shoes that they wear.
But
that's
this
the company.
is food, man.
But it's something everybody needs.
Your Nikes aren't growing on a tree. Dude.
Yeah, but there are old.
You can't grow your own Nike.
Yeah.
Or your own iPad.
Pre-GM food varieties that are patented.
Sure.
So I mean, I think even a variety of apple is held. The ownership is held by the University of Minnesota, and so all at least a portion of all profits of any of that variety go to them.
Yeah.
And this is since way before GMO, so that's also not a GMO specific problem.
Correct. The other thing is the people hate Monsanto.
Yeah.
And the Monsanto of today is not the Monsanto of old, who a lot of people they get really bent out of shape.
They do have a history.
They do, but it's not the same company. It's not at all the same company that people get all concerned about. Well, Monsanto made Agent Orange. Okay, well, Monsanto and a bunch of other companies made Agent Orange, and they were on contract with the government to do that. But nobody...
Yeah, the government made Agent Orange.
Yeah, the government did it and contracted with these companies to do it. Nobody seems to be, really, really upset with Bayer, who also created Agent Orange, or a bunch of other companies who did it. They seem to focus in on Monsanto for some reason.
Bayer, I think, also created heroin.
Oh, did they?
I believe so.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
But... yeah, for some reason, Monsanto seems to be the target of ire for so many people, and it really is not even the same company who did a bunch of this stuff in the past. One of the current CEO for Monsanto has expressed that one of his biggest regrets is that when they went through their major change and spun off all of their stuff and became pretty much just a tech agro company, that they didn't change the name.
Mm-hmm.
He said if he had to do it over, he would have changed the name because it's not the same company at all.
Like start delivering food to third world countries and be called Monsanto
instead of Monsatan.
Yeah.
One of the other big things that people talk about all the time when they talk about GMOs and Monsanto are lawsuits.
I've heard that a lot. I mean, that's a recurring theme that I've heard.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the story goes that...
well, and cover-ups of research.
Oh, cover-ups, huh?
Well, and this, I mean, again, this might be conspiracy theory. I'm not saying it's, but that Monsanto is always filing lawsuits in order to cover up research that it doesn't want the public to see.
I haven't seen any of those.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to, if
there
you
was
spot
a case
one, you'll
in
have to.
Florida.
Yeah.
That I vaguely remember. I didn't come prepared. I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. But if you run across it in the future, let me know, because I'd like to take a look at it, because I haven't heard that one.
It may be. It's most likely conspiracy theory.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I hear about.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard that one. The main complaint I get, or that I hear a lot, is that Monsanto sues farmers for, reusing their seed, or the Monsanto, Monsanto's trademarked products will have some pollen blow into the farmer's field. This poor traditional farmer who has, pollen blown into his field, or seeds scattered into his field through bird droppings.
And it takes root.
Yeah. And then Monsanto comes in and sues the farmer and ruins his business and his livelihood, and they're left destitute with nothing left. And it's all because of this big evil corporation. And none of that is true. None of that is true at all. There are two really famous or popular cases when talking about GMOs and Monsanto. The first that is on March 28th of 2011, or as I've typed it in here, 20,011, on behalf of 60 family farmers, the Organic Seed Growers and Trade Association, or OSGATA, filed suit against Monsanto, claiming they were trying to head off future lawsuits from Monsanto if Monsanto seeds contaminated organic crop fields, and then Monsanto would sue them. So this was their preemptive strike against potential future suits that they thought Monsanto may bring against them. Oral arguments were heard January 10th in 2013, and a ruling was issued June 10th of 2013. The case was thrown out after the farmers and their attorneys couldn't point to a single instance in which this had happened. Because the judge basically said, I can't grant you injunctive relief for something that has never happened before. Right. You can't sue somebody and request relief for something that has yet to have ever occurred.
But they're paying off the judges too, man.
But probably the most famous case is the 1999 lawsuit Monsanto filed against Canadian canola farmer Percy Schmeiser. Schmeiser was growing Roundup-ready canola without paying licensing fees for the seeds. Schmeiser tried to argue that his field was contaminated by insects carrying pollen, or by the wind blowing it into his field. In fact, he went so far as to suggest that it could have been blown into his field by a passing truck. Monsanto argued that his claims were patently false because 95% of his crop contained Monsanto's technology, far too much to be carried by the wind, insects, or even a passing truck. As an explanation, Schmeiser said he conducted an experiment. He sprayed Roundup on 3 acres of the field that was closest to a neighbor's Roundup-ready canola. And for those who don't know, Roundup Ready means that the canola seed has been imprinted with Monsanto's technology that make it so that the plant is not susceptible to its Roundup herbicide, also known as, Roundup is the brand name, glyphosate is the herbicide in question. And really quick, I want to mention too that when we talk about a pesticide, that can refer to either an insecticide or an herbicide when discussing farming technology and agriculture. And a lot of people will tend to misuse the label pesticide when talking about Roundup. Not that it's not a pesticide, but more specifically, it's an herbicide. It's not an insecticide. It's an herbicide. It kills plants. Not humans, not other animals. It kills plants.
Says who? Says Monsanto.
Yeah, they also say that, yeah.
So when Schmeiser conducted his experiment and sprayed Roundup on the 3 acres that were closest to a neighbor's Roundup-ready canola field, many plants survived the spraying, showing that they contained Monsanto's resistance gene. So he goes out, sprays the crops with Roundup, and they survive because they have the Roundup-ready technology in them. And so when Schmeiser's hired hand harvested the field months later, he kept seed from that part of the field and used it for planting the next year. This is what Schmeiser offered as defense for having 95% of his field containing Roundup Ready crops. This convinced the judge that Schmeiser intentionally planted Roundup Ready canola. Schmeiser appealed and still lost. The Canadian Supreme Court ruled that Schmeiser had violated Monsanto's patent. So, just like anything else, I can't take apart an iPhone, recreate all of the things, and then call it my own and sell it, right? Because I didn't develop the underlying technology. I just saw it laying there, figured out how it worked, and did my own thing. You can't do that. That's what trademarks and patents are used for, is to protect intellectual property that a company has spent millions of dollars investing in to create in the first place.
Right.
Would you like to buy this My Phone 7?
One of the other arguments I hear people toss around all the time is Frankenfood.
Yeah.
We've all seen the pictures of, somebody going to bite into a piece of corn and the corn bites back, or, injecting tomatoes with a syringe. That's not how any of this works. That's not what GMO technology is, or genetically engineering of crops.
Turkeys with 8 spider legs.
Oh, weird. I thought you were saying spiders with 8 turkey legs earlier.
Well, either way, I mean...
Either way, be happy,
I mean,
really.
Either way, I mean, as long as you have 8 turkey legs. I mean, because, it's the drumstick that everyone wants.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So this time you said a turkey with 8 spider legs.
Not me, I'm all about the turkey titty. I like the white meat.
Racist.
I know. I was just going to say.
Why do you like that dry shit?
I like my alt-right turkey. Another argument I hear all the time is that there's been no long-term testing, and that is just absolutely false. Genetically modified organisms have been around. If you want to talk about just genetically engineered things, they've been around since the mid-70s, is when they really began development through the 80s, and then it wasn't until, was it 96 or 99, that the first genetically modified organism seeds were actually available for planting in your regular farming methods for sale to people for things. So, I went through 15 to 20 years of testing before it was ever placed out on the market, and then since then has gone through another 35 years of use in billions of animals, billions of plants, billions and billions of meals, and there's been no adverse effect from it.
And why should there be?
Right, because it's the same, it's chemically the same thing.
And this is where I was talking about earlier, how if you're off by a millimeter at the beginning in your mind, once you get out you start to draw these conclusions, you're going to be off by so far. The fact that people would even suggest that they need to be tested over any other food demonstrates how little they understand about it. First of all, point to me which one is the GM corn and which one isn't.
Right.
You can't do it. So forget about labels. But secondly, they're all corn.
Yeah.
There's no why do we need to, we've been testing corn for fucking thousands of years. It's fine.
Well, and then the other thing is, a lot of people will complain about when they talk about labeling in GM products. What about the derivatives of GM products? For example, sugar beets.
Mm-hmm.
They grow GM or genetically engineered sugar beets because they're larger, they produce a higher yield, they require less water, they're much more ecologically sound. Then they take those genetically engineered sugar beets and create sugar.
Yeah.
That goes into a bunch of other stuff. So now do you have to label all of that other stuff as being a GM product? It's sugar. That's the product that they were after. It's chemically identical to sugar that you would extract from the sugarcane plant.
Yeah.
Its chemical composition is exactly the same. So does everything that contains this one sugar from a different source, but is chemically identical to its cousin created from another plant, do we have to change everything now? And on what basis are we doing that? And why are we doing that if it's exactly the same fucking thing?
Yeah. It would be like labeling double stuffed because they have double stuff.
Yeah. Well, they do that, but
Well, that's true. They do that. Okay, well, let's say you take this stuff out of double stuff and regular.
You have a choice whether you
and put that all in a vat. Then what do you do?
Yeah, and then you use that stuff
to make
with
more
just plain
ones,
cookies to make more regular Oreos. Do you then have to label them as double stuff when they're not? They're regular Oreos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But what if you use that stuff with brownies instead of cookies?
Well, then you're a fucking sinner and a heretic, and you should burn in hell. I don't know. Brownies? I don't like Oreos Oreos are okay. Double stuff, too much, but.
Too much? Double
too
stuff?
much.
I like the quadra stuff with you take the double stuff and you split off the one cookie and then you make. Hell yeah.
Now that shit needs to be tested for health. Human consumption.
So there has absolutely been a lot of tests around this.
More tests for GM foods than than any other.
Oh, fucking absolutely.
Way more rigorous.
Way more rigorous. Way more rigorous. A shit ton more testing. They test for allergens. They test for nutrition. They test for toxicity. They test for everything for this GMO technology. But the same can't be said of traditional or organic methods of breeding and hybridization.
And it's multi-departmental.
Yeah, there's nobody at the farmer's market who is going out and testing the farmer's crops to make sure that they're just as safe as the GMO technology that has been studied for years and years and years and gone through extensive tests, any number of tests before they'll even release it to the market.
Yeah.
But then, some guy just out in his farm can create whatever he wants and take it to the farmer's market and sell it to everybody.
Exactly.
And everybody thinks that's better.
That's better, yeah. The farmer's market is the gun show equivalent for food.
Yes, there's no licensing,
oversight,
no background checks.
You have no idea what you're getting. You can buy whatever you want, and doesn't matter, yeah.
Yeah, he could have used anything on it that he wanted. Yep. Doesn't matter.
Could have soaked it in bleach.
Yeah. So yeah, testing is definitely done on the GMO side, not nearly as much on the organic or traditional growing side. One of the other things that we hear all the time is talk of super weeds and super insects that are being created because of GM technology.
God, when is that movie going to come out? I can't wait. Super weeds.
But what they failed to...
Is he in the Avengers? I can never keep it straight.
Didn't that already come out with Night of the Aphids or something like that?
Attack of the Aphids?
Attack of the Aphids, some
Killer Ants.
60s or something?
Yeah, well there was all kinds of big bug movies back in the 60s, right?
Back in the 60s and 70s.
Grasshoppers, fucking... But what they failed to realize is that the same thing happens regardless of what kind of pesticide, herbicide.
I think you mean irregardless.
that you use, right? Because through the process of evolution and natural selection, things that tend to survive being, when we try to kill them, if they survive, then they survive and breed other things that would survive, and they become larger, they become more resistant to the things that we're using to try to kill them. That's why antibiotics are constantly changing. That's why the flu shot changes. That's why we cannot get rid of the common cold, because it constantly mutates. This happens regardless of whether you're using glyphosate or GMO technology or anything else. You could use any other kind of herbicide and the same fucking thing would happen. If you continue to use it, then you eventually end up with weeds that are resistant to it. So that's not a problem with just GMO technology. That would happen regardless.
Do people who are anti-GMO also not utilize mules?
Mules?
Or is that more of that's traditional?
Mules
genetic.
Are used in tradition.
Yeah. That's natural.
As Juan Valdez picks his coffee beans on the mountainsides of Colombia. Yes, he uses his mule.
I haven't read that book.
Hi, this is Megan Kennedy. I'm a speaker with the Satanic Temple. You can find me on Twitter at 6 Moments, and you're listening to the Godless Rebelution.
You really do believe? Yeah. Christian God?
Christian, yeah, all three.
I mean, I don't want to be dismissive, but you actually believe that there's a being that cares about, forgive me, but your masturbation, cares about everything you do?
Yeah, you know.
And you don't have any gnawing doubts about that? You don't think that maybe you're letting things slide by you that could be more beautiful? Like life?
Rejoining the Godless Rebelution podcast now.
Through the process of evolution, the use of any herbicide will naturally result in herbicide-resistant tolerant weeds. What makes glyphosate great is that it is much less toxic than many other types of herbicide. So besides the fact that this would happen regardless of which type of herbicide you would choose to use, glyphosate is so much less toxic than a lot of the things that we've used in the past that it's really fucking amazing. It was a revolution in the agricultural world when this technology was developed. GE, or genetically engineered crops, allow farmers to use a lot less and less toxic pesticides on fields because GM crops can be modified to allow a more targeted use of herbicides and pesticides. So you can create crops that we know that they have, a certain type of weed around them. And so then you could create a crop where whatever you're going to spray on them will kill all of the other weeds but leave the crop alone. So it's much more effective, much better for the environment because you can use less on it. You don't have to use wide-ranging
broad-ranging herbicide.
Right. A German meta-study published in PLOS ONE concluded that on average GM technology adoption has reduced chemical pesticide use by 37%, increased crop yields by 22%, and increased farmer profits by 68%, which is why, despite all of the protestations you hear from organic companies and growers, the use of genetically engineered seeds and the technology continues to grow because farmers get a lot more out of it.
It just seems like something that the left would be all for. If you could make a strain of, I don't know, plums, right, that can grow in arid, high sun areas.
In the desert.
Yeah, in the desert.
Yeah.
And then we could ship those seeds around to, some of the third world countries that have a lot of people, but a very difficult time growing fucking anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can also make them more vitamin, nutrient.
Mm-hmm.
They can add that kind of stuff to it. So
Absolutely.
They can be growing these crops that where nothing else will really grow, that have incredible nutritional value and save the lives of who knows how many. Not that we need a whole bunch of more fucking humans, but at least
fucking humans.
At least the ones that are born aren't going to die of starvation.
Well, I would be cautious about too broad of a generalization of the left, because it's not the left in general. I mean, there are a lot of anti-GMO people on the left, and there are a lot on the right.
There aren't that many on the right.
Well, there are more.
It's more of a left.
I would agree. It's more of a left than a right thing.
Anti-GMO and anti-vax are the left's anti-science.
Yeah, but it's not.
Areas.
I mean, it's not a broad thing on the left.
Yeah, it is. It is something that I mentioned it before, that it is something that cuts across.
Niche.
Yeah, it cuts across all demographics. As far as GMOs and genetically engineered products go, it cuts across all kinds of demographics for who's in favor and who's not. Whether you're left-leaning, right-leaning, college-educated, what your economic status is, where you live. It's a fairly even balance throughout all of those various demographics. And I think a lot of that is in part because of the slick campaigning that the organic industry has employed to try to get people to be afraid of GMO technology. It's just a product of that. Something else that is cited all the time is the Seralini study, and that glyphosate causes cancer, and that's not at all been proven to be true. It's not at all been proven to be true. The Seralini study was published in 2012. I can't remember the guy's first name, last name Seralini, and a bunch of other researchers from the University of Caen, stupid French word, Caen, University in France, was widely discredited because he used faulty testing methods, for example, using rats who are predispositioned to developing tumors. And eventually the paper was retracted in 2013. And that has done nothing to really silence him or stop him from his crusade against GM technology, because
Andrew Wakefield.
It's the Andrew Wakefield of the GMO world. One of the cool things about GMO technology is the really fucking awesome things that they can do with it. For example, Arctic apples. Everybody I know gets tired of eating brown apples, or when they cut their apples open that they brown so quickly because of oxidation. And so they've developed type of apple.
My apples are rusting?
Well, basically that's what happens. That's what happens when they turn brown. And there's a lot of home remedies or cures to keep your apples looking fresh. I mean, the brown doesn't affect the taste or anything really. It just looks unappealing. And so people will soak them in 7-Up is one of the things that I've heard. 7-Up and Sprite, or they'll put lemon juice on them.
Lemon juice is
to keep them from browning. But they've created Arctic apples, which are non-browning apples. It was created by biologists who took genes from Granny Smith and Golden Delicious varieties, modified them to suppress the enzyme that causes browning, and then reinserted them into the leaf tissue for the apple trees, and have created apples that don't brown. So
I think I'm going to open up a seaside barbecue joint called the Rusty Apple. Just sounds like a little jetty restaurant.
The visuals of that.
But with the technology, scientists are creating all kinds of cool shit. They're working on varieties that would survive disease, drought, and flood. One of the other arguments that I hear is about colony collapse disorder in bees, or CCD. And for quite a while, about 2 years ago, that was all the rage, that everybody was complaining about GMOs because they were causing bee colony collapse. And we've since learned that that wasn't really a thing in the first of all, that the colony collapse disorder was kind of cooked up to be much more than it was. It was promoted as this thing that was happening all over the place when it really wasn't a big issue. And since then we have learned that GMOs are not in fact the cause of killing bees or colony collapse disorder at all. The one thing that has been happening, and one of the species that has been negatively impacted by widespread use of glyphosate and GM technology, are monarch butterflies. But it's not because the glyphosate is killing the monarchs themselves. It's killing the milkweed. It's killing the milkweed that the butterflies use for their food source. And with large farming communities creating large swaths of land where they're using Roundup and glyphosate, it's killing the milkweed. So the butterflies have no migration path. There's no source of food for them as they're on their migration path, and so they're dying out.
Okay.
So it's not that the glyphosate itself is killing the butterflies, it's killing their food source, the milkweeds, which are an invasive species on your farm that you want to get rid of, so you spray them with Roundup, it kills the milkweed, but then the butterflies are negatively affected. So,
I mean, somebody will come up with, like monarch drones. We'll just have, like in Black Mirror, we'll just have monarch drones all over the place.
Well, the solutions there are to change farming techniques. And so one of the things that farmers have begun doing are to create little oases within their farm where they just let weeds grow.
Oh, okay.
So that they're not sprayed with any chemicals. There's a natural resting place or landing place for the monarch butterflies to go and get their milkweed food source and continue their migration.
How very altruistic.
So that's something that was based on farming techniques, not the technology itself.
Sure.
You were saying that, Grant, earlier that you wouldn't necessarily trust Monsanto-led or funded studies about the health of GM or whatever.
Not inherently.
Sure. In the case of bees, however, they have an extremely high interest in keeping them around.
Sure.
Right. So what I'm saying is it would make no sense for a company to continue with a program that's eliminating their only possible way of helping to grow their business.
Yeah.
Because bees are absolutely required for their success.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I see where you're getting. So, well, actually, going back to the bee thing, because I haven't actually kept up with the colony collapse. Is that actually not a thing? I mean,
it's the numbers were grossly overstated.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the numbers
there
were
are
grossly
problems.
overstated. Yeah, there are problems, but it's
the last thing I heard was that it was a thing of some concern, and that we had no idea what was causing.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard about Monsanto or
so the numbers like for the colony collapse disorder were grossly overstated in a lot of reporting, which we see all the time around scientific advances and articles on science. The numbers were grossly over exaggerated, and then we've since discovered that one of the primary things is a parasite called the varroa mite. And that's what was getting into bee colonies and causing a lot of the numbers it was causing a lot of colonies to have reduced number of bees because of this mite. It wasn't because of glyphosate or anything else. It was another parasitic bug preying on the bees.
Yeah.
And that kind of, I mean, what you're talking about kind of highlights something. There's a fundamental problem in science in general these days. I forget if it was an episode of Bill Nye that I was watching or John Oliver. Somewhere they were talking about this, where there is a insufficient amount of secondary research being done. I mean, science is based on science works because of peer review. I mean, that's the fundamental. That's
right.
But we're not getting enough peer review because there's not enough funding and there's not enough acclaim for anyone to come along and do the secondary studies. So somebody puts out some bullshit study that hasn't been peer reviewed, and no one's going to, and then the media picks up on it, and all of a sudden we find out that double stuffed Oreos cause cancer. And it takes a long time for that to be corrected because now it's in the media. Now everyone's afraid. Mm-hmm. Finally, some scientist picks up and is like, oh yeah, well, they tested like 2 leukemia patients and who ate double stuffed Oreos, and yeah, they had cancer. But by then, the public is already like all fucked up by
the
what's
genie's
in the
out
media.
of the bottle then, yeah.
And, it's kind of this, growing problem with, peer-reviewed science.
Well, it's also a problem with journalists they're not doing journalism. They're being purely reporters.
It's a problem with the media too.
Yeah, I'm going to get the story out first so that I get the recognition. I could give a fuck less about fact checking. That takes too long. I'm just going to be the one to break the story.
Yeah.
Yeah, or just overzealous reporters who don't know the science behind it. They're journalists. They're not scientists. And so they're just read an abstract of something
of it. Yeah.
And they pull up, the one particular sentence happens to catch their eye, and then what's the word I'm looking for? They blow that out of proportion and make the story into something that isn't at all what is going on, but it gets a lot of attention.
Well, and that's what it kind of sounds like with the colony collapse. That, I mean, maybe it's something similar where it's just kind of blown out of proportion because a whole bunch of people didn't understand and not enough secondary research was done.
There's a real media buzz about
before freaking everyone out about it.
Well, but then what ultimately resolved the issue was more research.
Yeah.
Was more research, was secondary studies.
But now putting that genie back in the bottle, like you were saying, that's a lot harder.
Becomes more difficult, right?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you kind of have to keep up on. You kind of have to keep reading study after study and learning more about it, but the overwhelming consensus, just as it is with vaccinations, just as it is with climate change, is that there is a growing consensus and an overwhelming consensus that GMO technology is safe, that it's as safe or safer than traditional or organic methods, that it can provide all kinds of potential benefits, and that people are afraid of it because of shitty junk science and bad reporting. Along the lines of nutrition, genetically engineered foods can be created which have more nutritional value than traditional or organic crops. Take, for example, golden rice, in which they have incorporated vitamin A into a staple food that is used around the world by billions and billions of people. Golden rice was created and can help reduce more than 500,000 cases of childhood blindness each year and over 2 million deaths per year from vitamin A deficiency. But you've got a bunch of crusading organic groups who think that science is evil and don't know what the fuck they're talking about, who go out and destroy test fields of crops for golden rice. They think it's scary and spooky and frankenfood, and so they lobby their government to keep it out of their country. It's something that could benefit millions and millions of people and stop more than 2 million deaths per year. But because people are ignorant of the science behind it, it hasn't happened yet. And so every year that passes that we don't have golden rice growing all over the place to decrease vitamin A deficiency, that's blood on these people's hands. And it's something that, so for me, when I was it's actually one of the reasons why I'm very passionately pro GMO and pro genetically engineered, technology, because I see the benefits, and this one particular thing to save the lives of 2 million people per year for this simple thing, just adding vitamin A to rice and having that distributed worldwide would save more than 2 million people per year.
Yeah.
And ignoring the science behind that and stifling it and trying to get it shut out from wide adoption and usage, that's 2 million people dying each year because of that.
Yeah.
I would say I'm in the same boat you are, that any affinity I have for GMOs is for that reason, for reasons like vitamin A, for developing seeds that grow in arid regions to bring food to areas that couldn't naturally grow it right now, or things like that. That's
you mean shithole areas?
I wasn't
fucking Haiti and Africa.
I wasn't going to say that, but yeah, the shithole countries of the world. Then maybe they won't need to come here, and maybe Trump will finally be happy.
If we starve them there, we won't have to starve them here, Grant.
Yeah, no shit.
That motherfucker is never happy. I mean, is he ever happy about anything? I mean, fuck. Go on.
I've seen him smile, but it's more of a sneer, I think, usually.
I mean, you know,
when he
the
looks
only
at
time
him,
I
when he
hear him
looks at
laughing is
Ivanka.
when he's talking about grabbing pussy. Yeah, I mean.
This is Phil Ferguson of the cleverly titled The Phil Ferguson Show, and thank God you're listening to the Godless Rebelution.
So you don't believe in something watching us, something keeping all of this going?
I'm not sure there's no God, but I don't know. The most important revolution in human history, more important than agriculture, more important than writing, is the scientific revolution came down to 3 words. I don't know. And no institution, no church, no king, no power structure had ever said in history, I don't know.
Thank you to everybody who has rated the show on iTunes and Stitcher and are following us on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And to all our Patreon patrons, you make the show possible.
One of the other arguments that I hear tossed about all the time is that Monsanto developed a Terminator seed. That this evil corporation has created a Terminator seed that, you know, once everybody develops, you know, a real craving and taste and has adopted GM technology, that Monsanto's going to hold the world hostage with its Terminator seed and say, well, we're not going to give you any more seed until you give us $1 billion. And Terminator seed was created. It's a technology that Monsanto made, and they did it so that when the first generation of seed was planted, grows to maturity, that the seed from that plant is sterile, that it can't propagate anymore, that the seed is basically dead. It's not something that they can flip a switch and turn off all of the growth of all the crops or anything. It's so that seed can't be used in the future. Doesn't affect its nutritional value, doesn't affect anything else. It just makes the seed sterile. We're growing a bunch of eunuchs out in the field.
Couldn't they just hang like a mesh over the entire field or something to keep seeds from spreading? Like a Skynet or something?
Something like that, yes.
But isn't that where people kind of see this as kind of corporate overreach? I have this apple now with these seeds but now I can't grow an apple tree from the seeds because the only way I can have an apple now is buying more of your seed. I can't now grow an apple tree myself.
So when you had that Samsung phone you really loved, which one was it? The one that was exploded?
The Note 7.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so when Samsung made the decision was it a buyback officially or some sort of a credit?
It was a recall. Yeah.
But it came down to, because you held it as long as you could, because you liked that phone.
Yeah, basically.
But it got to a point where they said all the remaining phones will just not have service. We're shutting them all off.
Yeah.
Right?
Right. They're but in that scenario, they're shutting them all off because they're inherently dangerous.
Okay, maybe, but
growing my own apple tree is not inherently dangerous.
Sure, but
not going. My apple tree isn't going to blow up in my face.
I guess my point here is that there seems to be some knee-jerk reaction when we're talking about this particular subject that people have some sort of a natural resistance to just to relating this to other situations that happen all the time that are similar, or I don't know. There's a definite ick factor involved with the GM stuff that I think is like the left's gay marriage issue.
Well, and they assign nefarious.
I know you say it's not just the left, but that's what I see mostly.
Yeah.
Well, it is a lot on the left, but I guess I would also say, there is a distinction though. There's a difference though between nature of growing my own apple tree versus a manufactured product like a Note 7.
But Monsanto isn't saying we're creating Terminator seeds so that nobody can grow their own food. The Terminator seeds, as far as I understand,
seeds in there, but I cannot grow an apple tree from those seeds. In the apples I grow from, am I understanding that right?
Well,
I buy a Monsanto apple seed.
Well, it wouldn't be an apple tree though. It would be like a yearly.
Yeah, so I'm just sitting listening to you guys talk this out because
maybe I'm misunderstanding.
Because at the end of all of this, there's a little something. But I was you started saying something, but I was curious where you were going to go with it.
My understanding was that this was a response to some of those like quote unquote lawsuits and the spreading of their patented seeds and stuff like. So to solve that problem, they just say, well, okay, we'll just make seeds that only work for a year, and then.
And that's absolutely correct. That's why the Terminator seed was created, was because of growing concerns from people who said, well, we don't want these potentially dangerous scientifically created Frankenseeds spreading in the wild. So we want to make sure that they won't propagate. And so Monsanto said, okay, well, we'll develop a technology that makes sure that when the crop is mature, that any resulting seeds are sterile. That's the Terminator technology. Okay. And it was created in response to people bitching about shit. So then they do it, and then the people bitch about them doing it. There was a no-win situation for them.
That message, okay, and again, I don't follow this as closely. Maybe I should. That message is not the message that I hear get out in the media or in
Oh, right. Because there's a narrative from a lot of the organic and small farming communities that they don't want this technology adopted. And so anything they can say against it, they absolutely will. And like I said, their first complaint was that they were concerned that these weeds would end up spreading into other communities and other farms, and there'd be no way to stop it. So to address those concerns, Monsanto said, okay, well, we'll make sure that the resulting seeds from mature plants are sterile. Okay. And then everybody freaked out and said, well, now you're just making sure that we can't ever grow these seeds.
And to be fair,
without buying more seeds from you to grow the next year's harvest.
Yeah. They really could use a good PR person, because
it really sounds like they have a really lousy PR.
It's kind of,
we see that throughout the scientific community, that there aren't a whole lot of great there aren't a whole lot of great science communicators. It's just scientists doing their work and having a good time doing their work and not communicating very well with the general public what is going on. And then there's also a breakdown in communication as far as scientific terms used and hedging their bets. Most things are exacting sciences, right? But there's also a concern that as our knowledge increases, the science and technology changes. And so you can say that, well, to the best of our knowledge, this thing operates this way and will do so in the future and whatever. But then perhaps something will come in and change and modify that. So scientists always hedge everything. They don't know.
Yeah.
The people against scientific advancement are always like, well, this is evil and bad and it's going to kill people. And they make these declarative statements that are black and white, cut and dry. This is the way it's going to be. And scientists say, well, we're pretty sure that this and that. And they use all of these terms to hedge what they're saying. And people just go, well, see, you can't even really tell me that it's not going to, rape my children in the middle of the night.
It's seen as weakness when they can't. Yeah. But I mean, even in the terminology, I mean, like you were saying, but it's accurate to call them Terminator seeds, but it is a little ominous, and
yeah.
Well,
so
and that's the terminology that was created by outside. That's not that's not Monsanto's term.
Oh, okay. What did they call them? I'll not be back.
Shit, I wish I had written it down, but I did not. But yeah, they didn't develop it in house as called the Terminator seed. I'm sure it was something like non-propagating or sterile seed.
Sure, yeah.
Around the issue of seeds, the other thing that I hear all the time is that people complain that, well, farmers can't save their own seed anymore, and Monsanto sues farmers if they try to save seed. And that's partially true. But the thing about that is that even before GMOs were created and were widely in use, farmers stopped saving seed. The problem with saving seed is that it's really labor intensive. You have to grow the crop, then you have to harvest the crop, then you have to set part of the crop aside, then you have to go through and figure out a way to get the seeds that you want, which introduces a bunch of other seed material like weeds, other invasive plant species that may be growing in among your crop that you've now harvested and are trying to get seeds from. And with things, in particularly things like corn, where all of the corn that's in use for both feed for animals and consumption by humans is a hybrid. And so when you have a hybridized plant and then you try to collect seed from that, those individual seeds that are created by the hybrid are going to have genetic variants. And so when you use the collected seed, the resulting crop is going to be of less quality and won't necessarily be the hybrid seed that you wanted to grow in your farm or on your land in the first place. So for years and years and years, farmers have not been collecting their own seed because it's labor intensive, it's cost ineffective, it introduces weeds, and you don't get the actual desired traits from your farm, which also then results in lower yields for the plant product that you wanted when you set out for your enterprise of planting them on your field. And so they were buying seeds every year anyway, because then they get a consistent product with a guarantee of crop yield and of purity of seed that they just don't get if they save their own seeds. So it was more cost effective for the farmers to not worry about trying to collect their seed and introduce weed variants in there, to have less desirable traits in the resulting offspring from a hybrid plant that they had planted the previous year. It's much more cost effective to just buy new seeds every year. So when people complain that Monsanto sues farmers for saving their seeds, well, that is part of an issue, but most farmers don't do that anyway. The farmers that do were basically set on really difficult terms where maybe their farm was failing. They've signed a previous agreement with Monsanto to buy seeds for this price for this year. And then something happens. They can't buy seed the next year. They want to try to do whatever they can to stay in business. So they'll harvest seed, plant them, but that breaks the agreement that they entered into. They don't have to use Monsanto seed. They can use whatever the fuck they want.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they choose to use seed from Monsanto is a pretty good indication that even the people who are complaining about it after the fact know that it's a much better product. They're going to get better yields out of the seed that they use from the ag tech companies.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, I'm straining to find a flaw in it, but I mean, but no, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if you're going to buy Monsanto seeds and if you're going to enter into this agreement, I mean, part of the thing that kind of kept going through my mind is that, why does Monsanto feel the need to sue? I mean, what is that? I mean, if farmers aren't doing it anyway, then why do they need to sue? But if you're voluntarily entering into a contractual agreement with them, then yeah, I mean, it's on you. I mean, yeah. So no, that makes perfect sense.
Crop yield is often cited as one of the things that is a big boon or benefit for GM technology. Current crop yields are fairly consistent between traditional farming techniques and GMO products, but GMOs are gaining each year and offering higher.
What are butt GMOs?
Butt GMOs, you know what I'm talking about. But it's offering higher yields each year and is already surpassing traditional and organic crops, and it's more ecologically sound as well. Climate change. GM products are our best solution to quickly adapting to the environment changing all around us that we see every year. As the environment continues to change, genetic engineering is the fastest solution to offering real-world advancements in technology that can continue, where we can continue to grow crops that will benefit people in an ever-increasing and diverse and rapidly changing global climate.
Yeah.
Well, how many times do we hear this story, even here in the U.S., not even like third world countries or anything like that, of entire crop yields throughout a state being killed off due to frost or due to flooding or things like that. Oranges in Florida
being wiped out by
weather and shit like that. So
yeah, I mean, every time there's a significant global climate event, there's a serious flora and fauna holocaust that follows that, and extinctions of humans. I mean, not entire, but near extinctions of humans have happened a couple or few times. And waiting for plant evolution to catch up naturally could be centuries, to fully recover.
Evolution is slow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a slow fucking process.
Right. But GMing them, is as fast as you can do it. Pretty much. As soon as you know the conditions, you can just plan for it and then plant.
Well, and then you can isolate specific genes for traits that you want and precisely input them into the product that you want as your output versus, hitting. So ways in the past that they've tried to create hybridized plants or to genetically modify things has been, taking cuttings and implanting them or transplanting them to another plant, blasting them with radiation so that it creates mutagens that then hopefully produce a desired trait, and then you can take that and create other hybrids from there.
I bet that worked a bunch of times.
Well, yeah, well, that's weird, right? So, basically just blasting something with these rays and then hoping that you get something out of it. And then if you do, then you've got to go through all the testing of it. So it's just all of this time wasted on an inefficient process.
Yeah.
Where going in and specifically selecting individual genes for targeted changing or modification cuts out all of that inefficiency.
I wonder if people were freaking out about that at the time.
I don't think they even knew about it.
Right. Yeah, maybe not. Probably not.
Yeah, I think they probably had absolutely no idea.
They're just putting peach trees in microwaves.
Let's see. Labeling is another big topic that people talk about.
Yeah.
And my quick and easy answer for anybody who's a proponent of labeling GM products is that we already have a label in effect that does the same thing, and that's the USDA organic label. The USD organic label means that it can't be placed on any GM products, so you already have a de facto solution to labeling something as GMO. You may not know, you have things that are certified organic according to the USDA, and they have the label. Everything else may be organic, maybe just a traditionally farmed product, maybe GMO, you don't know. But those are the ones that are more widely in circulation and that most people can afford and use. The organic label comes with a markup in price. That's one of the things that really frustrates me with GMOs and genetic engineering in general, is that it's privileged people who have the means to say, well, I'm going to reject this other stuff and pay more for this thing that I want. Yeah. Because I've been advertised to that this may be a superior product. And so you poor people can have this other stuff, and I will shit on it and try to stifle its innovation and widespread use because I have the means to get this organic thing.
Right. Yeah.
I just have a hard time picturing somebody at Smith's like shitting, like dropping drawer and shitting on somebody else's bananas. And then going and getting the organic bananas.
I don't find that hard to believe at all. But I think that's a good point, though. They're the people that get to walk over to that privileged aisle, and feel the big happies for buying the thing that they want that nobody else can get. And then they try to take that other food that they're choosing not to eat out of the mouths of people who can't afford anything.
Right.
Fuck you.
Yeah. That's the thing that I find most frustrating. It's when I mentioned, I think during the last episode, that one of my relatives now through Tracy is hippy dippy crystal loving GMO hating kind of person. And, a couple of years ago, I posted something on Facebook, and this is shortly after I had met this person, and she sent me a Facebook friend request, and I posted something about GMOs, and she went on there ranting about a lot of the arguments that we've talked about tonight, and I, pointed out where she was wrong and why she was wrong in a bunch of them, and she's like, well, I don't know why you're getting so upset about this. Why don't, I'm just talking here, like, why are you so strident in defending this? And I'm like, because you are speaking from a place of privilege. You have no fucking idea or concern or care for people who can't walk into Whole Foods and stroll down the organic aisle and spend whatever the fuck they want on food that is the same thing chemically, compositionally as anything else in the rest of the store. And you're denying that technology and trying to stifle it and starving and affecting people. And you don't seem to realize that at all. That's why I'm concerned about it. And she hasn't commented on anything since then.
Yeah. and tone is the place where people retreat to when they feel like, the other person is maybe not open to or knows a certain amount about the subject. Religious people do it. Atheists are so angry all the time. And, you get that from everybody that's not skeptical. If you know a little bit about it, or if you are passionate about it, then they always retreat to that. Oh, why are you getting so upset about this? Like, we're just talking. No, like, you're being a fucking moron.
Yeah. And it's a bullshit argument.
Yeah.
Because I have had arguments with people online, and I say arguments meaning basically just a discussion where we disagree. I don't mean where we're yelling at each other back and forth or anything, but I've had discussions with people online where we are in an argument and we have a clear difference of opinion, and I have been as gracious and as nice and polite and considerate and accommodating as one person can possibly be, and for some people it just doesn't fucking matter. They're going to believe what they want to believe, and nothing that you can say will change their mind about it right then. Hopefully sometime down the road they'll change their mind because you planted a little seed or whatever. Just this week,
GM seed.
Yeah. Just this week, I got in a conversation with a friend on Facebook because I posted that airborne and Zicam are bullshit, and homeopathy is bullshit. And I got in a somewhat lengthy discussion with a friend who uses Umka, and that's it's a homeopathic cough medicine, basically. And I tried to explain to them, okay, it's clear that you don't really even know what homeopathy is.
Yeah.
Because you're citing you're telling me that you buy this because it helps you, and well, it works for me, and so that doesn't matter. And I said, so you're completely ignoring the entire idea of, oh, fuck me, what is the placebo? You're entirely denying the placebo effect.
Well, you're perpetuating a placebo
effect.
You're saying because it worked for me, it will work for you.
Yeah. Well, and then the other part of that is, if you go and get real medicine that we know has real world effects on things, that's much better than a placebo anyway.
Yeah.
And then to say that, so that went back and forth, and I said, you don't seem to know what homeopathy means. Here's what it is. And I explained what homeopathy is, that it was created so long ago, that it was this pseudoscience bullshit where like cures like, and ever decreasing amounts of something somehow make it stronger, and water has memory, and you have to thump it on a piece of leather, and, all of this stuff. And I said, so,
wave it around like you just don't care.
I said, so it's pretty clear that you don't know what homeopathy is. And this is after this person had commented that, well, I wouldn't even really call it homeopathy. I'd say it's more of a home remedy. I'm like, no, home remedies are a whole other thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people get them confused with homeopathy because they both start with home, but they're not the same thing. And homeopathy is bullshit junk science. I said, and it ended basically when my last comment to them, after trying to be as nice and gracious as possible and as charitable, as accommodating as I could possibly be in everything. And my last comment was, look, man, if you really want to insist that a product that you buy, which probably has absolutely no measurable amount of the active ingredient in it that you're seeking, and that becomes more potent if you put it in a beaker and bounce it on a piece of leather, and that water has memory, I don't know what else to say to you. Like, that's the end of the discussion. If you want to believe that fucking works, I can't explain anything else to you. You're beyond reason at this point. So, yeah, it's a waste of my fucking time to talk to you about it.
Yeah. And
it was really frustrating.
And if water has memory, like, it's got everything in it then, because how long all the water has been around on Earth and recycled.
Well, yeah, like Tim mentioned, said, if it's got memory, how convenient is it that it seems to forget all the poop that's been in it?
Yeah, okay, sure, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, that was just a really frustrating discussion.
Hey, this is Taylor Grin from grinandbearint.com, where we do news, analysis, and commentary, and you're listening to Godless Rebelution.
What if you're wrong? I mean, I could never...
What if you're wrong?
What if I'm wrong? I mean, either way, I'm good. You're right.
No, that's not true. I mean, that's the problem with Pascal's wagers. There's more than one choice. You could spend your whole life praying your ass off to Jesus and then find out that it's actually Zeus and he doesn't like you praying to Jesus.
I'm enjoying the certainty I get from my faith.
You don't have certainty.
I do.
No, you don't.
I do.
You can't get certainty just by willpower. You can't force yourself to believe things that you don't have evidence for. You just can't do it. You can't force certainty.
Yeah, but this is all I have. I can't. This is how I was raised. I can't just put it aside because you make some sense. I mean, it's hard for me to admit that you're making some sense.
Yeah, I dig that. It's hard to change. It's really hard. It's hard for someone my age to admit that the Beatles weren't that good.
If you have questions, comments, concerns, compliments, corrections, criticisms, or concepts for content, contact the show via email at godlessrebelution@gmail.com, by text or voicemail at 330-81-REBEL, or Twitter the twatter at TGR Podcast. Thank you!
Around the topic of labeling, it's a tactic that's employed where basically the argument is, okay, well, if there's no problem with the product, why would you be opposed to labeling it?
Mm-hmm.
And then as soon as you label it, they say, well, if there wasn't a problem with it, why is there a label on it?
Yeah. Well, if you're not a terrorist, then you won't oppose to a wiretapping by the NSA.
Yeah.
If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't care about that.
And to be fair, there are a lot of people who agree with that concept, who actually don't have a problem with being wiretapped because I'm not doing anything wrong anyway.
Well, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, but it just goes back to the whole thing about like the Terminator seed. Like, there's no way for them to win on it. There's no way for Monsanto or anybody else who's creating
it's a
GE products to win on this, right?
One way or the other.
Because if they cave into the demands of people who say, well, we don't want this spreading, and so they create a Terminator seed, well, then they turn around and go, well, you created a Terminator seed. What the fuck is going on here?
Don't these people have some sort of a cure for whatever Monsanto's doing? Isn't there a plant homeopathy or a crystal they could lay near?
They can go through.
That's a whole new industry. Oh my God. I was talking last week.
It is called new cottage industry.
I was talking last week. Why am I not rich?
Coffee enemas.
Why am I not rich? Here's a whole new industry of anti-Monsanto homeopathy solutions.
Probiotic.
Oh my God.
Plant.
Yeah,
stuff,
fruit juices and things like that. You don't have to worry about buying the GMO corn. You just drink my fruit juice, and
it'll clean you right out.
It will counter all of the Monsanto.
Yeah, it's made with homeopathic water, up to 25 milligrams of placebo in every bottle.
Yeah, and fucking ages of memory in it. I mean,
Right.
It remembers what corn used to.
Yeah, it remembers before the
GMOs, and it will recover your system back to, oh my God, this is $1 million idea.
This is paleopathy.
So I have some other things in here, but real quick, I want to get to, because we're running short on time, I want to make sure that I get to different things that people use that have genetically engineered things in it that they probably never even think about and would never give up in a million years, and that has made the world so much better.
Yes.
This came from a Popular Science article. It says, dinner dissected. Very few genetically modified crops end up on tables or on plates, but the ones that can be found in roughly 2/3 of processed foods sold in the U.S. Genetically modified bacteria and yeasts are also critical to the production of some foods, including many wines and cheeses. I figured Grant would be very interested in this.
You have to throw it.
For example,
you
cheese.
have to win me over with wine and cheese. Jesus Christ.
Rennet is key in making firm cheeses. Specifically, an enzyme called chymosin in the rennet helps harden cheese. Traditionally, cheesemakers used rennet from the lining of cow stomachs to get their chymosin, but an estimated...
That's the way I like my cheese. Natural cow stomach enzymes.
But an estimated 80 to 90% of hard cheeses in the U.S. are made with bacteria modified with the rennet-producing cow gene.
Which stomach would they get it from?
One of the ones in the cow. Corn. The trait is that it tolerates herbicides and resists insects. Total U.S. crop usage by acreage is about 85% of the herbicide tolerant, 76% insect resistant. It's found in processed foods such as crackers and cereals, corn on the cob, livestock feed, tons and tons of other stuff.
Fucking your gasoline. I mean,
yeah.
Corn is in everything.
And then, of course, the livestock feed ends up in you if you're a meat eater.
Yeah.
Cotton. The trait is that it tolerates herbicides and resists insects. Total U.S. crop by acreage is 82% herbicide tolerant, 75% insect resistant. It's found in processed foods, including salad dressings and livestock feed.
Cotton is in salad dressings?
And, of course, the clothing that you wear.
Well, the clothing, sure, but I didn't know cotton was in food.
Yeah. It's also in your money. It's your money.
It's in your money. Yeah. I don't know why the GMO people would have an issue with GMO cotton. Because, I mean, it's what you wear. You're not ingesting it.
It's touching your body all the time, Grant.
I mean, it's your clothes and your money. I mean, you're not ingesting it. So, I mean, why would they have an issue there?
Well, there are a lot of things that can affect you just by sitting on your skin, right? People with allergies to nickel, for example, can't wear, jeans with a nickel fastener if the buttoner, so my son Gray is allergic to nickel. So he has to be careful about some of the clothing that he wears because a lot of the fasteners for clothing are made from nickel because it's an inexpensive solution that's fairly hardy and easily found everywhere. But so if the back of, let's say the button at the top of your pants, the back of it is nickel and that rubs on your skin, he has an allergic reaction, gets blisters and sores. And so we've in the past had to use nail polish on some of the things that would come in contact with his skin so that the nickel, which is an allergen for him, doesn't touch his skin and cause problems.
Underwear.
Yeah.
He could wear underwear and then that would solve the whole problem.
Well,
so he's a delicate little flower. Is what I'm saying. He's just...
My son's awesome. Come on. Papaya. The trait is that it resists ring spot virus. Papaya was almost wiped out. Total crop usage by acreage is more than 50%, found in whole fruit and other products. Rapeseed, the trait that has been genetically engineered into it is that it tolerates herbicides. Total U.S. crop usage by acreage is more than 50%. It's found in canola oil and processed foods.
Little known fact about that. Favorite seed of Roy Moore.
And Donald Trump, I believe. Yes. Soy.
Especially the young ones when they're young.
The trait is that it tolerates herbicides. Total U.S. crop usage by acreage is 93% of all soy is genetically engineered. It's found in processed foods like cereals, breads, food additives such as lecithin, and in livestock feed.
Well, every fucking Chinese order I get, I mean, soy things in it.
Well, things as simple as
so much
as
disdain.
Squash.
I love soy sauce.
They've created squash that resists various viruses. That is in use by acreage in amounts of 12%. That's found in whole vegetables and other products. Sugar beets, the trait for that is that it tolerates herbicides, so it's Roundup ready. Total U.S. crop by acreage is 95% of sugar beets.
Wow.
And that's found in refined sugar, which ends up in fucking everything.
Yeah.
Lastly, wine. Certain wine yeasts have been modified to make wine production easier and prevent the production of harmful fermentation byproducts. One example is yeast strain LM01 in the United States, which prevents the production of histamines that can trigger headaches. It also improves flavor and color. I think all of that is very fascinating to Grant because he has a histamine issue.
He loves
wine.
Issue. I love red wine. It gives me a fucking headache. I would love a red wine that doesn't give me a headache. That would be cool.
I have one more.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
What?
Fucking kale.
Kale?
Yep.
What?
Yep. Kale is what happens when you selectively breed wild mustard.
Oh, the smallest seed in the world, according to Jesus.
Yeah. Yep. He didn't know about rapeseed. In fact, so are broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and cabbage. They're all selectively bred types of the same species and can even breed with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. There. Even your precious kale.
Yep. That is it for this evening. We have run out of time. There are a lot of other topics in the GMO, genetically engineered arena that we didn't get to or talk about a whole lot. if you have questions or if you think we got something wrong, if there's something else that you'd like us to clarify, please write in and let us know. You can do so by sending us an email at no, that would be our Twitter. You can send us an email at godlessrebelution@gmail.com. You can tweet it to us at TGR Podcast. You can call and leave us a voicemail or send us a text message at 330-81-REBEL. You can post it out on our Facebook page. You can post it in our Facebook community. You can comment on the eventual YouTube version of this show when it's out there. If there's something that we didn't address, some other question that you have, some other concern, or something you feel that we got flatly fucking wrong, I want to know about it so that we can correct it. So please reach out and let us know. Thank you very much for coming in the studio tonight, Grant.
Oh, you're very welcome.
And Matt.
It was very informative. I'm not as informed as I should be on this subject.
Not many people are, because it's not something a whole lot of people think about.
I'm not anti. I'm not pro. I don't tend to worry about it a whole lot.
Why do you want people to die, Grant?
I mean, I'm pro to a sense, like I said earlier about, I'm pro
goldenrod
GMO because of the benefits for third world countries and things like that. But like when I go into a store, I'll buy my kiwis, and if they're out of kiwis, I'll buy the organic kiwi. I just don't give a shit. But I'm not intentionally seeking out.
Do you go out of your way to purchase organic?
No, hell no.
Materials?
No. I buy my granola, but not because it's organic, but because I just like granola. So, and I've had some questions. About it, that, things I've heard in the news, things I've heard tonight that you've addressed. So it's been interesting.
Well, if you think of any others,
informative.
If you think of any others, let me know.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's something that I really like talking about. It's something that I have said that I'm really passionate about.
I will saturate you with conspiracy theories.
And it's a really difficult discussion to have because there are so many different areas of interest and so many different arguments for and against GMO that a couple of years ago I tried to have a conversation with somebody who was virulently, or was at the time, very anti-GMO, and tried to limit it to, okay, give me your concerns and I'll try to address them one at a time. And you end up with gish gallops and it's a really difficult thing to try to talk about. But
well, and you're also, beyond the media and beyond the bad PR, you're also overcoming decades of movies and TV that introduce all these ideas into our head of the evils of science and the bad side of science and where it might go. And you're trying to beat that back as well. All those fears of Terminators and shit like that. So it's hard. I can see where it's hard.
It's fun though. I like talking about it because I have yet to meet somebody who was virulently anti-GMO who actually knew what they were talking about.
Yeah.
So in studying this a whole fucking lot over the last few years, I've learned a ton. And so it's one of those things that I feel like I'm not an expert in, but I certainly have a much better understanding of all of the arguments for and against than the average layperson who calls things frankenfood and says that they're going to only use organic stuff. And
it's kind of like talking to Christians.
It is kind of, it's kind of a religious thing
there is a religious aspect to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I am very pro science. I believe in science. And then that's one of my fundamental questions, which I said at the top of the show is, has the science been done? And that more than anything else, that's the question.
Here's the thing that I find funny about that question. Has the science been done? They're making squashes virus proof. That's as science as you get.
But when I say has the science been done, has the testing been done to ensure that they're not also turning that squash into something toxic in the process?
Okay. So one last thing then, before we go, is that I did have something on testing here. that I skipped over for time, but I want to make sure because you asked.
I apologize.
I want to make sure that I address as many concerns as possible. So if at the end of the show our listeners still have any concerns, please let us know. But as far as testing goes, GMOs are tested for safety and allergen potential of humans and livestock, as well as risks to wildlife and the environment before they are approved for sale on the market. The same cannot be said of all conventional or organic crops. Like I said, the guy at the farmer's market, his shit isn't tested.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to go through all the rigorous certifications and testing that GMO products have to go through. Genetically engineered food products are probably the most tested products in all of history, with more than 2,000 global studies affirming their safety for humans, livestock, and the environment. More than 1 billion animals have been studied as part of the research into this for the effects of toxicity, for allergens, for long-term health effects. Big Organic likes to say that all research stating GMOs are safe has been funded by and carried out by Big Ag, but that's patently false. And this speaks to a concern that you voiced earlier.
More of a question.
Yeah. Well, so over the past decade, hundreds of independent researchers have published peer-reviewed safety studies. At least a dozen medical and scientific groups worldwide, including the World Health Organization and the American Association for the Advancement of Science, have stated that the GMOs currently approved for market are safe.
See, and that's what's reassuring to me. When you start bringing in WHO and independent organizations like that,
I don't understand this concern. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on you or anything. I'm just saying to me, I find this question to be one of the least interesting. Because if let's take the squash example, if they're going in to make it, like virus resistant or something. Squash is already pretty human friendly, right? So they'd have to intentionally add something there to make it bad.
No, they don't have to intentionally add. They can unintentionally add something in the process
when science goes wrong.
In the process of trying to do one thing. I mean, it's like your Oreo example of doubling the cream yield, but making the cookie harder. They could unintentionally add toxicity while trying to solve another problem.
Okay, so let's say that happens. Science is a process, right? So they don't just take one squash and have one guy go, I think this is going to work. Sell 1 billion of them. That's not they're going to test that one and see if that's what happens. They're going to going to test? The company who wants to sell.
Well,
probably them too. But I mean the scientists that are involved in getting the proper results, they have no interest in killing their clientele either.
Yeah, that was going to be my other point, is that as a producer of a product, I want to make sure that I'm not killing the people who are consuming my product. I want to make sure that it's yeah, I was going to say. Yeah, I was going to say.
Well,
that,
sure, but they provide a product that kills people. Squash doesn't kill people. You'd have to add something to it.
But they could add something without.
But they're testing it. They're going to test it. They're not just going to make a change and then release 1 billion of them to everybody.
Well,
and even if they did do that, it worked out. Because people have been eating them and they're fine. So, but that's not the scientific method.
I mean, I would argue. I mean, that's kind of the reactionary effect. I mean, we don't want to wait until thousands of people die before we find out if something is safe. We want to find out something is safe before thousands of people die.
Right, like the flu shot. You're not an anti-vaxxer?
No,
right?
Oh, no.
Okay, so when they give you the flu shot, how are you sure that you're not going to get AIDS? That's how I see this question.
Okay.
They have to actually intentionally introduce that, and they could accidentally get AIDS on there. Well, maybe, but I mean,
keep using the word intentionally, but it doesn't have to be an intentional act.
Yes, it does.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, it would be possible that they could in trying to introduce a specific trait, they did something that triggered something else within the plant that produced a microtoxin, right? That made it more, that increased the allergen potential for people who would consume.
And then they never test that; they just release it all, just like with the flu shot.
But again, who is doing the testing?
Well, I'm sure the group of scientists that are working on the modification are going to be doing most of the heavy lifting in terms of testing, because it's their baby. That's their project.
Right.
And then the companies are going to have their own groups testing it.
Right.
There's going to be multiple groups making sure that everyone involved in the transaction is getting what they want out of this.
But is anyone who is not dependent on the profit of this genetically modified squash testing it? That's my question.
Right, but all the people who are financially invested are also invested in the people who would be consuming it and keeping them healthy.
But we've seen time and again where corporations put profit over the health and welfare of their consumers. We've seen that time and time again.
Fair, but
I mean, if the only climate change science was coming out of the oil companies, we've seen the result of oil company science or oil company scientists on climate change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we've seen
tobacco companies,
auto safety
research there,
auto safety relative to, we've seen example after example of cover-ups and things like that, where they put profit ahead of the safety and welfare of their consumers.
Yeah, I still think that it's not quite apples to apples, because the companies you're bringing up are ones that are primarily profiting on things that are unhealthy. But the oil companies, pollutants, cigarette companies, all that. Yeah, they have no way. They have no way around making their people unhealthy.
We're talking about a genetically modified squash, which the company could be profiting on once they release it, even though there could be a chance that there's a risk to the consumer.
So I think maybe. I think maybe what Matt is saying is that things like the tobacco industry or the oil company, we know that their products have always been bad. They've always been harmful. And it was through quote unquote research done by those corporations where they tried to justify or say, oh, there's no concern.
Right.
But that was always bad.
Mm-hmm.
Those products were they started bad. They've always been bad. They'll always be bad.
Yeah, we're
squash
using corrupt
squash isn't something that has harmed people,
right.
And there's been a cover up, and they've tried to say that no, it's fine.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying that you're comparing one thing that has always been harmful and will always be harmful to something that has never really been harmful, and trying to equate that to something that we know has been harmful.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Did I state that okay?
And that makes sense. So are you saying squash cannot become toxic?
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying that in order for it to become so dangerous, the scientists would have to be doing something other than what they're trying to do.
Or it's an unintended side effect of what they're doing.
But they would test that before it goes out, because they want to maintain.
As long as they're testing that.
But again, you're talking about trusting the corporate testing. I'm talking about
all of it.
Is there independent testing? I'm talking about, is there testing outside the corporation? Because so the scientists create this genetically modified squash, which their internal testing finds, oh, well, there's like a 20% risk of toxicity and
that seems really high.
Well, no, I mean,
just as an example,
I'm just throwing out a number.
Okay,
here.
yeah.
There's a percentage chance of toxicity amongst a select group of people. And their bean counters are going to say, well, the words are escaping me. The cost benefit ratio, the risk,
the return on investment,
on investment relative to any possible lawsuits. We should squash this research.
We should squash the squash research
and push this thing out, because the return on investment is going to be higher than any possible risk of lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, let's be fair. This is not conspiracy theory. This is how
Ford did that.
This is how corporations work.
Yeah. Well,
so
I
my
would say,
question is, does anyone outside the corporation test that squash?
Well, and I would just ask the question of, have we seen that ever happen ever in the world of consumable food goods? Has there ever been a case where a company has intentionally buried research that says that the food product that millions or billions of people consume is detrimental to their health as a raw product, and they've squashed that, and it's come to light later that this thing that billions of people are using all the time is terrible for them?
Maybe I'd have to. I'd have to hear the question again, but I would come back to tobacco.
But that's not a food product.
Well, it's not a food product, but it's a consumable. It's something you take in.
Well, so's oil and shit like that. It's still a consumable. But what I'm saying is that as something that people need to, you don't need tobacco to live, right? You don't need alcohol to live.
No, but you don't need squash to live either. I've lived without squash pretty much my entire life.
Right, but I'm saying we're comparing things that are bad, have always been bad, will always be bad, to things that haven't been bad.
Sure.
There's no track record of any of these food products, whether the original wild cultivars that we began crossbreeding and hybridizing and producing changes through traditional farming methods and then moving into GMOs and genetically engineered products. There's been nowhere along that timeline of any of those products being harmful or detrimental to human health.
Okay.
And so to create something that is harmful or detrimental to human health, you would have to introduce something new into that product, and then in studying it and testing it, would have to try to squash anything that says that it is bad, and then you would have to try to market that to people and get them to eat it when later studies would come out to say that you did do something harmful.
Yes.
And then that belies and betrays the entire enterprise of you creating that thing in the first place.
Yes. Yeah.
And so then your entire enterprise is shit. It's down the tubes.
Absolutely.
And I can't see a company wanting to do that these days.
I don't quite have that level of faith in corporations.
Sounds like you're trying to beat back decades of mad scientist movies and
well, no,
I know what you're saying.
This is something that is independently researched and tested.
That's all I'm asking about. Independent research. Yeah. Independent of the corporation. Because I'm not as convinced of any corporation's track record for long-term gain. They really are more about short-term profits.
What
nowadays.
about the companies that make your flu shots that you get? Are you really skeptical and demand independent research that you're not going to have one that has some AIDS in it?
I'm pretty sure they do independent research on.
Well, that's good enough. Yeah, exactly. It's good enough for your flu shot, which is direct. But it's for this, you're like, I'm not sure about that. You know what I mean? And it's just odd to me that
there's a distinction there, a difference.
Just for this, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's where I think that there's kind of an ick factor with GM. And I think it's pervasive.
Well, and it's one of those things that people fear change. They fear new things. They fear technology a lot of the time. It's something that in their minds hasn't been tested because it's new and different and innovative. And so there hasn't been this long track record,
right.
But then they ignore all of the science leading to where we are today. Like I said, this has been around since the 70s when they first started testing this and growing these things. It's been adopted and in wide use since the 90s, and we've had absolutely no problem at all. And we've had, as I mentioned, more than 2,000 independent and company-sponsored research-intensive testing that says, the consensus is that it's all safe and good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so we went a bit long.
Sorry.
No,
to spin us off.
No, you're totally fine. Like I said, I wanted to make sure that I could address.
Actually.
Yeah, most of the arguments against. But yeah, as I mentioned, if any of our listeners have questions, let us know. If you think we got something wrong, let us know. We're going to move into the Patreon portion of the show. Before we do, I want to make sure that we thank our sponsors for the show, which is all of our Patreon donors. That would be Michelle Short, Christy Kalbach, Camille Borowski, Numania, Alan Firth, Gaytheist, Larry Wilson, Dr. Dan's Mass from the bot of the podcast, to whom we are loyal subjects or something.
He's on his second glass, guys. It's
Janet Uter, Let Them Eat Kofefi, Stephen Andrus, Marius Kott, Butcher
Oh my God.
I don't know what the hell is wrong with me. I'm fine. I don't know what the hell. I'm having a stroke. Utah Outcasts, Tim Jacobson, Matt Tueller, Megan Kennedy, Andrew Vodopich, Brandy Hamrick, Jeremy Goodson, Angelica Pearson, Wes Aaron, The Purple Dragon, Mr. Grant Larimer, and Taylor Grin. Thank you all very much for your continuing support of the show. We really, really do appreciate it. Helps us pay for hosting and equipment and all of that good kind of stuff that comes out of our own pockets. So if you value the show, if you think we're adding something to the discussion, if you're enjoying what we're doing, you'd like to see us continue doing so, please go out and become a Patreon supporter. You can do so by going to patreon.com/GodlessRebelution. And so until next week, crucify those scientists.
Leave a review to achieve nirvana. I'm not prepared.
Oh,
I'm usually doing your role, so
and modify the show 5 times a day toward Mecca.